Welcome. If you need some support, check out my donation-based products and access my free IFS guided meditations at faithfullygrowing.com. Additionally, if you're finding this podcast helpful, consider making a tax-deductible gift to help keep IFS accessible to all at faithfullygrowing.com/donate. Welcome back to IFS Meditations and Insights. I'm Tim Fortescue, here to help foster spiritual wholeness and healing through the lens of internal family systems. In this caring space, we aim to dive into self-discovery and inner knowledge. I truly believe that when we accept all parts of ourselves, we're able to experience deep love and live more fully. I'm thankful to be part of your path to inner peace and sacred connection. So settle in, open up your heart and mind, and let's dive into another episode. So how are you and all your parts? I know when I check in, I think of this past weekend, and in our small town here of Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, each year to start the summer season, we have a summer frolic, which is where carnival rides come to town. The Lions Club has a bingo tent that parts of me hung out at a little too much, but boy, we had fun, and I think we stayed pretty centered and balanced. Lost about $30, but what the heck, it went to a good cause. And so I think of that and just parts that came up, and they kept the weekend fun. And then on Saturday night, there's a big fireworks show as a part of the frolic. And Bruno, he is my golden doodle, actually a brown golden doodle, and took him to the fireworks with me. And often Bruno he's usually calm and pretty laid back, but he's the first dog that I've had in a long time, and I've had him a couple years. So went to the fireworks with my son, and no other dogs were around there. And people were asking, how's he do with fireworks? And I said, well, I'm not sure. This is his first show, but we're about to find out. And talk about firefighters. That first boom went off, and Bruno lost his mind and pulled away. Kind of got a big rope burn from the leash on my finger still, where he bolted, and I've never seen him run so fast in his life. And of course, my system's activated. Talk about a trailhead, or I'd even call that a trigger, and be okay with it. Was just panic and embarrassment, because people probably knew better than I did that you don't take your dog to a fireworks show. And so my little ones inside of me just really bubbled up with shame. And my son and I, we went and walked and looked for Bruno, and eventually got in the car and drove through the town streets. And it was about 11 o'clock at night, and no Bruno. And so I said, well, let's go home. He's got my name and phone number on his collar. I believe someone will call us back. And so just a night of anxiety and parts. I was laying in bed just breathing and trying to speak to those parts inside of me and just let them know that they're not the burdens that they carry, and this happens, and they're not alone. And was able to get some calmness and slept so well that the man who found our dog, found Bruno, nice gentleman, he actually came to our house in the country at about 1 a.m. and was ringing the Ring doorbell, which he didn't know the battery was dead. So long story short, we didn't hear him, but I did get a text later in the night, and I let him know that we'd be there to pick up Bruno first thing in the morning. And so we picked up Bruno, we're so glad to see him. He was glad to see us, but he's staying closer to the house now. And I hope it's encouraging to you. These things happen. We're going to have trailheads, and just being aware of our parts can help even a chaotic situation like that go a little more smoothly. And so just check in with your parts, see how they're doing, and stay connected with that inner team this week, because they make us whole. They can get out of control from time to time, but they're doing the best that they can. And today I'm going to talk just a bit about more somatic and body work in IFS and working with the body. And in IFS, we understand that the mind, brain, and body are all connected. To achieve true healing, we need to include the body in the process. And so let me give a little insight into why we use the body in IFS. And there are many reasons to include the body in this model. Ideally, the body is where all our different parts and our true self live. However, some parts might feel cut off or disconnected from the body. For some people, the body feels like a battleground where parts fight or control or struggle with issues like appearance, abilities, gender expression, or race. These parts can impact the body positively or negatively, and the body's condition can affect the parts as well. And IFS, one of the beauties of it is that it's a flexible, client-centered approach that makes it safe for people who might feel uncomfortable paying attention to their body. We can start with top-down approaches, focusing on thoughts and feelings first, and then move to the body. Alternatively, for those who are more aware of their body, we can use a bottom-up approach, starting with the body and integrating thoughts and feelings along the way. And an IFS practitioner will find the best method for each client. And I've found it takes a little time, a few sessions, to understand the client's system and to build trust between my system and their system. But after a few sessions, we kind of find our rhythm and footing of the approach we need to take. Sometimes it's top down, sometimes it's bottom up, sometimes it's external in, and sometimes it's vice versa, from those somatic feelings outward. And let's look a little bit at how parts and self show up in the body. Our parts and true self can show up in the body in various ways. And I learn in my IFS training how parts affect physical health, how to work with parts through the body, like my lower back pain. It's been a trailhead to many, many experiences inward, and just being aware of that. And recent discoveries in neuroscience relate well to IFS, and it's good to just be aware of that. And it's one thing to be in our head, but it's also healing if we can get out of our head and into the body. And the parts, the self, and the body, they can all be integrated together to feel whole. And in order to feel whole, our true self must be present in the body. When the self is more present, other parts can relax and soften back. In cases of severe trauma, and I am not a trauma-trained professional, but have gotten a lot of experience in my own life and with clients to see that this is healing. And in those cases, parts may dominate, making the self feel less embodied. So there may be a numbness or dissociation. It's good to be aware of that. And parts might show up as physical sensations like pain, that I mentioned, or illness. And they are encouraged to communicate their needs directly. Managers, firefighters, and exiles use the body. And we can help them know that that's okay in different ways. And common patterns can include, for example, managers control parts of the body to avoid feeling vulnerable, which can cause physical tension or pain. And firefighters, they use distractions or pleasures like food or substances to escape pain or create illnesses to avoid situations. And then those exiles might use physical sensations to communicate when they feel unheard, needing the self to feel their pain so that they can have validation and get some relief. Self-energy, which includes qualities like compassion, clarity, confidence, courage, creativity, and connectedness, also shows up in the body, often felt as calmness or warmth in the heart. And the physical tension from conflicting parts can ease as these conflicts resolve. And here are some ways that we can work with the body using internal family systems. IFS has developed ways to understand how parts and self interact with the body. We see the body as a natural home for parts and the self. The goal is to help parts unburden, reconnecting them with the self and making space for the self in the body. We may pay attention to physical signs of parts and the self throughout the IFS process, starting with the 6 F's that we as IFS practitioners use of finding the part, focusing on it, fleshing it out, and noticing how we're feeling toward it, and see if we can extend it, some of those 8 C's like calmness and curiosity. And if we are able to, then we can befriend it and focus on that part so that it can be integrated, be reacclimated to who we are, and ultimately be healed. And so we locate where the part is in or around the body, which is key in this process. And this strengthens the connection and helps gather information directly from the part. We also check how the body feels after an unburdening happens and integrating parts, ensuring the client's nervous system is regulated before in the session and send them back out to the broader world. Some basic ways to work with parts and the self in the body include scanning the body for physical clues like tension, aches, nausea, or tingling. And we can use these sensations to connect with the parts associated with them. Also, just noticing sensations connected to a part and exploring them with permission. It's important that we do get permission, or there's going to be backlash from some of those parts, particularly protectors. Observing feelings toward a sensation and finding the part carrying those feelings. Getting to know the part located in a specific body area. We can also discover how a part wants to move the body or what posture it take, noticing how polarizations, conflicting parts show up in the body. We can also recognize the presence of self-energy, calmness, curiosity, etc. in the body and inviting parts to engage with it. And then also sharing self-energy with a part by placing one hand where self-energy is felt and another where the part is located. So maybe there's a self-energy in the chest, but a tightness in the gut, or some tingling in the extremities, and sometimes just that touch of touching the heart, and then maybe touching 2 fingers together of where that tingling is and extending that self-energy there. And then finally, focusing on a symptom, exploring what parts are expressing through it or how they're reacting to it, and considering what the symptom might say if it could speak. And these methods, and there are other ones, but they help integrate the body into the healing process, making the journey toward balance and wholeness more effective. And so be aware of your parts and be aware of how they're showing up in your body. And let's just keep trying to all just send compassion to ourselves and the world as we continue this journey with our parts. That wraps up another episode of IFS Meditations and Insights. If you found it useful, please share and leave a positive review to help others find the podcast. For more content, visit blog.faithfullygrowing.com for a free categorized list of meditations and insights. As always, your thoughts on the podcast are welcome. Send me an email to tim@faithfullygrowing.com. And thank you for being part of this community. Remember to be compassionate with yourself and others. And I look forward to our next session. And until then, take care, stay curious, and embrace all parts on your journey and show some grace to those parts that may be challenged a little more at doing this too.